One. Hello.
Hello.
Okay, we're like, oh,
no.
Let's
You and I
adjust.
should switch places.
all right.
Or-
Well, maybe I'll just do hi.
Okay, now we're cut off.
Oh, that's okay.
Switch.
All right, switch. Excuse us.
Or now I'm going all blurry.
That's okay.
Well, we have better light tonight than our last
Yes.
Facebook Live.
Yeah, that was
But still, we are not slick media types. And hi, everybody. Welcome to our Facebook Live. My name is Karen Boite. This is
Michau Van Speyk.
Nico. And hiding in the corner, hi, is
Laura.
Or Kirby McIntosh.
right. So we have two people joining us. Thank you so much, those of you who are out here. And let's just give folks about 1 minute to join us if they want to, and then we're going to dive right into
You gotta
talking
fix
to
the camera. Those
Nico.
Laura's cut off.
Laura is
I'm
cut
okay
off.
with being cut off.
She's okay with being cut off. We'll probably play musical chairs a little
Okay.
bit, you know,
It's all good.
depending on who's talking to you.
Right.
Have you got any good jokes?
No, I'm not funny at all.
None at all? Does Laura have a joke?
Can I tell the same one I told that
Yes,
versus Facebook Live?
please tell the
'Cause this
same
is so
joke
good.
because it's so good.
So, what time should you go to the dentist? Or no, when you go to the dentist, what time is it? Tooth hurty.
That's a good one.
It's
That's a
such a
good
great
one.
kid joke.
My dad tells the worst dad jokes ever.
Yeah, I love dad jokes.
Yeah. Can you
They
think of one
annoy
of
me.
your dad's jokes? A clean one?
Oh,
He always does this, like, how much wood, chuck wood.
Yes.
Good
Those are
one.
silly things.
Good one. Good one.
Indeed.
Yeah, that's,
So, what's your favorite hockey trade that's happened
Oh
in the last
yeah.
few weeks?
Okay. Good hockey trade lately.
no, it's been really quiet. The NBA had a blockbuster trade last night, and I was like, oh my god.
What was that?
Blake Griffin got traded away from LA to Detroit Pistons. So he's coming to the Motor City.
Ooh,
It's
okay.
him and two of the other Clippers players in exchange for 3 of Detroit Pistons players and 2 picks.
Okay.
So that was a blockbuster. It was like a 5-player and 2-pick deal. I'm like, oh my god.
Okay. Now, what's your call for who's going to make it to the Stanley Cup this year?
There's a lot of teams, but I honestly think Vegas, even though they're in their starting year,
I
are
feel
in the
that.
head of the league. And then Tampa, they've been tearing it up. I mean, if you watch Steve Dangle's video, he's one of my favorite hockey YouTubers ever.
Right.
He was saying that two of the players, Steven Stamkos, who's from Thornhill, from Markham,
Cool.
and Nikita Kucherov, who's from Russia, are both on pace for like 120 points each.
Damn.
And Steven Stamkos has stayed healthy, and that's why Tampa are doing so well. Because every other season he's played has been injury-riddled, and now he's having a healthy season. And it's like, oh my god, they're more dangerous than we thought. So I think it's going to be Vegas and Tampa in the finals.
Vegas and Tampa.
Who would have
All right.
thought that a Florida team
Yeah.
might win the Stanley Cup,
Or a Vegas team.
or a Vegas team
Yeah.
for that matter?
I mean, Pittsburgh, everyone at the beginning of the season is like, Pittsburgh's going to win it again. They're going to three-peat. I'm a huge Crosby fan, but I jumped on the Pittsburgh bandwagon 2 years before they drafted Crosby when they drafted Marc-Andre Fleury, who's now on the Vegas Golden Knights.
Right. Toss
So
it.
as soon as they drafted Fleury, I'm like, Pittsburgh, my team. And then they drafted Malkin. I'm like, okay, let's see what else I can do next year. They drafted Crosby. I'm like, okay, time for some action. Let's see it.
Right on.
And even though they had Mario Lemieux for one season with Crosby, they still tanked. I'm like, what? You got Lemieux, who's a legend. Crosby, who's going to be in the Hall of Fame. Fleury and Malkin, and yet you're still one of the last place teams. How does
I
that
don't know.
work?
I don't know how that
Well,
happens.
you know,
I have an idea.
sometimes
I
it's
will
not
cheer
stars that. Oh, good
behind.
idea. I think should we start?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have 4 people. We had 7 just a second ago, but we're ready to get going.
It's bedtime.
And it's bedtime. We know that people are going to be tucking their children in, and let's start. So, my name is Karen. I am a member of the Ontario Autism Coalition, and right here, as I said before, this is
Michau Van Speyk. I'm one of the Youth Advisory Committee co-chairs.
yes, and back behind us here is
Laura Kirby McIntosh. I'm the vice president, but autism mom first.
And we don't have our lovely president, Bruce McIntosh.
we don't
Bruce,
have
if you're
our
watching
lovely
this,
president. No, we don't have our lovely president.
if Bruce was here, or Bruce, if you're watching, hi. I'm hoping to see you at Cliff's birthday party on Saturday.
see, we're a small but mighty family here, and we have been doing these Facebook Lives, the Ontario Autism Coalition, for the last year or so, and most of our topics have been about politics, because that's what we are. We are a group of parents who try to influence government to do what they're supposed to do, which is to help our kids and help people who need extra support. So that's what we're all about. And I asked, and Laura, we asked Michau if he would be willing to do a Facebook Live. It's a little bit different this time. Michau is a young man, a gorgeous young man. He also happens to be on the autism spectrum. He is also an extremely valued member of our board. And he knows an awful lot about politics. He also knows an awful lot about what it is to live in a neurotypical world. And so we are opening up, or Michau is opening himself up to answer questions that you may have about his childhood, about his perceptions, about how he's doing now. Yeah. So we'll just dig in, and please feel free to post your questions. Laura and I are going to.
Oh, we've got three questions.
Hi, Sharon.
Hi there, says Brent. And
hi, Brent.
A few hellos.
Oh, there's Bruce.
And there's
hi, Bruce. How are you?
The lovely Bruce. Okay.
Can you pass me my phone, and then
Yes.
I can track
see
the
a little more
questions for you.
easily.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I'll fade into the background.
She's going to fade into the ground. So let's start at the very beginning. A very good place to start.
There's definitely a theme.
There's
Oh
a
my God.
theme, Sound of Music.
I remember watching it all the time as a kid, The Sound of Music.
Yeah,
So good.
it is a favorite.
Well, no, our teachers, whenever something would go wrong with the school network and we couldn't access and couldn't do work, they just played The Sound of Music every single time the network went down.
Oh God! Over and over.
That's
Over
an
and
interesting
over.
choice, eh? Not The Lion King.
Nope.
Okay.
Sound of Music.
Sound of Music. I'm curious about you when you were little. And I'm wondering if you could tell me, if you dig back into your memory banks, about your very first memory. Just your first memory.
Yeah, one of my very first memories is being back home in South Africa. I was born in Cape Town, came to Toronto when I was 5 years old with my family. Just playing at our house, and it was me, my brother, and our nanny. And, you know, not at that point in time, I was so little, I didn't really know. I wasn't really aware of the world around me and what it was going to have in store for me over the next couple of decades.
Do you remember how old you might have been?
I think I was 4, almost 5 years old.
And can you think of something that you would have been doing in this memory?
I think we were just playing with our toys. We had like a sandbox, and we were playing with like these little toy shovels and like a little toy bucket, and we just loading sand and trying to make like sand castles and stuff like that. My brother would have been 2, almost 3, and I was 4, almost 5. So that's probably my first memory.
First memory? And what did you like to do most at that age?
Build sand castles and just watch movies. Back in those days, they didn't have these fancy DVDs or Blu-rays. They had VHS tapes.
Yes.
Which have now kind of been outdated.
Yeah, they have. They have. Even DVDs are outdated now.
Well, no, they've got Blu-rays and 4K DVDs, which my
Yeah.
dad gets. He loves the 4K DVDs.
And a lot of us who are parents of young children on the autism spectrum, I think one of the first things that people start to notice is that their kids develop differently. And I'm wondering that when you were very small, did you have a sense of being different, or were you just busy being a kid?
I was being a kid. I didn't really notice I was all that different until I moved to Canada, and especially being someone who hasn't been diagnosed yet. I was only diagnosed at age 7.
Yeah.
But imagine you're a kid. You're moving to a whole new country where you don't know anyone.
Yeah.
All you have is your parents and your sibling.
Yeah.
And when I first came here, I didn't speak any English. I only spoke Afrikaans, so you don't speak a language. You know no one. You're in a foreign country halfway around the world from where you live, like 1,500 miles.
Yeah.
and it's scary. Like, you don't know what the hell's going on. All you know is you're packing your stuff and leaving for a new place.
Yeah. I find for me that the word different is a very tricky word, because I think that I feel different. You know, apparently my brain is a neurotypical brain, but I've never felt like a normal person.
But
you know,
one of my favorite quotes from Temple Grandin movie is different, not less.
Yeah.
And like Dr. Temple Grandin is someone who I would love to meet one day.
Me too.
And also meet Carly Fleischman and her lovely parents, Tammy and Arthur. Arthur actually just became a Canadian citizen. I didn't know he was born in the States. I thought he was born in Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome.
I saw that post. I'm like, oh wow.
It's very cool.
I was very surprised.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they had 2 kids who were born here, grew up here. Because I know Carly has a sister.
She has a brother too.
I didn't know. I've never heard anything about her brother, but in one of the videos I watched about her, her sister is featured for a couple minutes.
Yeah, they're twins.
Yeah, except Carly was born with autism, but her sister's neurotypical.
That's right.
Yeah.
What is her sister's name?
I know the answer to that. I just don't know it right now.
Yeah.
But they're a lovely family. Carly was just on the Colbert.
Yes, she interviewed Stephen Colbert.
It's a pretty cool show.
And she was also on a show which I would absolutely dream of being on, the Ellen DeGeneres show.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
Hint, anyway.
Like my friend Sam, the autistic dancing barista. When I saw Sam on there, I was so proud of him. I met him at ISAM Camp Drive. I met Chris Ali, a very nice man. And the baristas came up and showed us how to make drinks. And all Sam would talk about is, I want to go to Japan. I want to go to Japan. He was drawn to go there.
Yeah.
And when Ellen gave him his trip and he started crying, I started crying because I was so proud of him.
Yeah.
I was like, Sam, you are killing it. You are going to be the next Carly and the next Dr. Temple Grandin. Like, people are going to know you the world over.
Do you have a lot of friends who are also people on the autism spectrum?
Not a lot, but a couple. A lot of my friends are neurotypical, but they, like, a lot of my friends from camp have family members, like cousins, who are on the autism spectrum.
Yeah. And
so they know about it, and like they always come to me when they have questions, and I educate them on it.
Yeah.
And so they're trying to understand their relatives better, so they can not be judgmental. And it's so amazing when people just want to learn and not just like shut the door and be judgmental.
Yeah. Yeah.
And one of my customers.
Your customers?
When I was with the TTC, came up to me.
So you've got a job.
I used to. I just got laid off.
What were you doing at the TTC?
Customer service. So basically, I would give people directions. I'd give them maps if they needed, and I'd help with TTC train shutdowns when they were doing track maintenance on weekends.
Yeah.
Getting them to the shuttle buses and getting them to where they need to go. And
So
when my customers came up one time and he's like, a lot of the people that you work with have disabilities. I'm like, well, I've got high-functioning autism. And he's like, my niece was just diagnosed. Could you give me some resources? So I told him to check out all these, like, resources I have and a bunch of movies to understand. He's like, I'm definitely going to check those out when I get home so I can become better understanding of my niece.
Can I jump in? Because we actually have somebody who's joined us. Her name is Sherry. And her son, who is 6. Hi, Sherry. Was just diagnosed with high-functioning autism, Asperger's. So maybe you can tell her what would be your first piece of advice about what she should do to help her kid.
I'd get him into groups at Geneva Center for Autism and Carrie's Place, and also check out Reach for the Rainbow. They were absolutely amazing and helped me and my family. Were very, very good to my family. Also check out Easter Seals. They're another great organization that helped one of my favorite YouTubers who's got a sibling with severe disabilities, and they were very good to his family, as he said in a lot of his videos. So check out all those places because they are all very, very helpful. And also check out Hall and Bloor View Kids Rehab. They've got a lot of...
they're great too. I have a question.
Yeah.
So this word autism, when did you first hear that word and understand that it was attached to you in some way?
It was about 7 years old. One of my teachers said to my parents, I've got a nephew on the autism spectrum. I think Miko's on the spectrum. You should get him tested to see. And I went to a bunch of appointments at Sick Kids Hospital, at Hall and Bloor View, And I was diagnosed by world-renowned autism specialist Dr. Wendy Roberts. She's also diagnosed one of Laura's kids. She's a world-renowned specialist, and
she works at ISAND.
ISAND,
Yeah.
which is a camp that I went to where I met Chris Ali and Sam.
Yeah.
Two amazing people who are doing such great things. And yeah, check out ISAND as well. Absolutely amazing.
And when you heard that word, autism, what was your reaction to it? Was it a positive one, a negative
Kind of
one?
negative. I didn't want to have this label attached to me. And then as I grew older, I learned that it could be a positive thing. And then I kind of changed my mind.
Yeah.
And started, looking into it more with my parents. And then I guess in my late teens, I started becoming an advocate. Before I ran into Laura online, I just started joining a bunch of groups hoping to meet new people. And I'm so thankful I did, because otherwise I would have never met Karen or Laura or Bruce or any of our other amazing members, Janet, Bruce.
These are members of our board.
And Melanie and Gideon and
so many
other people.
So many other people.
And I'm so thankful I've met all these amazing people who are autism parents, but also on the board. And that's the best advice I can give you.
That's good. Good question. So Josh Robbins is asking, I don't know if there are any workers on here except me, but maybe you can tell them how workers can best help people with autism.
Good question. Thank you, Josh.
We have talked, but just to put it out there.
Yeah.
So what are some things that you remember workers doing with you that made the world a little easier for you?
I had an amazing worker by the name of Ken. He helped me in so many ways. I'm so thankful to him. He helped me with my social skills and learning how to be out in public and be socially acceptable with behavior. And we did so many amazing things together. And we went to so many cool events and did so many cool things over the years. And he really taught me a lot. And we did just kid stuff. We played sports. I made friends. He helped me to learn how to make friends. And I'm so thankful for him. And I still talk to him on a semi-regular basis by phone. And so I'm very thankful for everything he did for me.
How much of an input did you have in choosing your worker and staying with the worker?
I didn't really have any input. I met a lady who ran the organization that he worked for, and then through, she got to know my likes, dislikes, and through that, I got matched with him, and it was the perfect match. It was a match made in heaven, and, we did so many amazing things together. He really became a part of my family. My brother knows him, my parents know him, a lot of my friends on our street and neighbors know him, and he really became a big part of our community. And when he announced that he was leaving, we were all very, very sad. I was, I think, the most hard hit because it kind of came out of nowhere. He gave me months. I was like, wait, what? You're leaving after all these years?
Yeah.
It's like a month and bam,
Yeah.
out of nowhere.
What was that like?
It was pretty devastating because, that was all I knew, him coming to see me every Friday after school and, doing really fun stuff. And then over the summer holidays or March break, he would spend, instead of just Friday after school, he would spend the whole day with me from morning until sometimes even midnight. He'd leave and he'd have to go all the way back to Pickering where he lived.
Wow, that's a long trip.
Big commitment.
And when he only gave me a month's notice, I was like, what do you mean? He's like, well, the company's shutting down. I got a new job. And I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
Very...
A lot.
So, Fallum Gibson, who I think you know, says, you're awesome.
Thank
And my friend Eugenie says, this is a great idea for a live. For those of you just joining us, I'm Laura, this is Karen, and this is Miko. And Miko is an amazing young man who lives life on the autism spectrum. And basically, this is a chance to ask anything that you want to know. And
Fallon is also an amazing young woman. Go check out her Facebook page. Yes. Some of the stuff I've seen has really broken my heart with what she's had to go through. Yeah. Fallon, I feel for you, and I've been sharing your posts. Please continue what you're doing. The work never ends. Please continue.
Yeah. Check out Fight for Fallon.
Is this hard work answering questions about your life?
No, it's okay. I like being open and. Yeah, if you have any more questions, please post them in the comment section, and Laura's going to read them for us.
So Kelly wants to know, is it okay to ask, Were you always verbal? Do you remember, or when did you become verbal?
Age 5. Before age 5, I kind of just I had some speech, but very limited, and I wasn't able to really. I kind of mimicked people, but then after age 5, I started doing a lot of therapy at the Geneva Center and really got my vocabulary going. And before I used to be really shy and not talk, and now like I just talk all the time.
I can vouch for that.
Can you remember back to that time in terms of I'm interested in your perceptions, right? So a lot of us, when we see a kid who doesn't speak a lot or doesn't speak at all, they may not understand what we're saying as parents and as adults. Were you aware of feeling confused?
Yeah, I definitely felt very
what was
confused
that like?
and very isolated. Like I
Yeah.
didn't know what was going on, and like.
So when people would talk to you, do you remember how you perceived them?
I think a lot differently than now. Like now I can understand with clarity, but before I was very confused and I kind of just look at them like, what are you saying to me? I don't understand.
Yeah. Did you ever get a sense, or did you ever get in trouble because you didn't understand but people didn't realize it?
Yeah, I think I got in trouble a lot at school.
Yeah.
And the teachers just thought I was misbehaving, but then they realized, and then my parents wrote a very long advocacy letter, and they made hundreds and hundreds of photocopies to hand out to all the parents at my school. It was proceeded positively for the most part. There are some parents from when I was there who see me on the street and just give me really dirty looks, like, what are you doing out on the street? You don't belong here, blah, blah, blah. And they don't see all the advocacy work that I do, and they don't see what I go through on a daily basis, and they haven't seen all the struggles I've been through. Especially 2017 was probably the worst year of my life. I lost 3 family members very suddenly, and death hits hard. A lot of my friends have just experienced losses in their families, and it does get better. There's always hope, and there's always a light on the other side of the tunnel. And if you're feeling depressed, please seek help. Suicide is not the answer. Seek help.
That's a really important message, especially given that later this week, people will be talking online with the Bell Let's Talk initiative.
Yeah, it's a great cause. Please go and support Bell Let's Talk. For every text and I think it's a phone call, they donate 5 cents. So please, especially Bell customers, just go crazy with your texts and calls. So the more money they can get to go towards mental health services, please.
I'm thinking, there's lots of questions coming in.
Okay, good.
But maybe you guys can give me some feedback. I was thinking that maybe one of my contributions to the Bell Let's Talk campaign, is that tomorrow, January 30th?
Yeah.
I think it's tomorrow.
January 30th.
So I might do a lunchtime live, just talking about my own experiences, dealing with mental health challenges, overcoming them, and life. Raising a kid with special needs can be really stressful, and I'm willing to be open about that. You've got 24 people watching and questions coming in really quickly. Oh boy.
Can everyone hear us all right?
I think so.
Good.
Tracy Lindblad, who's a good friend to the OAC, wants to know what types of therapy were most helpful to you.
I did a lot of group therapy and music therapy at Geneva Center for Autism, and a lot of back in South Africa I did a lot of touch therapy for sensory issues, and learning different textures and learning what I liked and didn't like, and just a lot of therapy at Geneva Center, and also some back home in South Africa.
When you say group therapy,
what
was it like? What happened?
So we would learn how to become friends with each other, and we'd play games that would help us connect, and we do group activities, and we learn how to take turns and not over talk over each other, and not try and get our turn in before someone else can have their turn if we're playing like a board game or something.
Questions are piling in here, so I'm going to try to get through as many of them as possible.
All right.
Kelly McDowell. Hi, Kelly. Also, she'd like to know, did you prefer to do therapy with your family? Did he prefer to do therapy when he was with his family, or did he like that time off?
I kind of like that time off, and my parents would go. They had a parent group at the same time who was run by another autism specialist. And so the parents would learn stuff from this autism specialist while we were doing our group therapy. And it was helpful for both the parents and the kids. And it helped, I guess, all of us to become closer with our families and bond more and learn more about society and emotions and all that.
I definitely feel that question, Kelly. It's a hard balance to strike between being a mom and being a therapist.
Yeah.
Mika, what can you say to Samantha? She says she's so scared. She has 3-year-old twin boys. Both have ASD, and one of them is nonverbal. She's scared this might be lifetime for him. What can you say?
Don't give up. Keep pushing, no matter how hard it seems. You know, just keep taking them to therapy, IBI, ABA. They're very, very helpful. You need to try and get as much therapy as soon as possible. And being nonverbal for some people is a lifelong thing, but for others like myself, it comes later. Like, I only started talking in full sentences at age 5, so it comes later for some people. Just keep trying and don't give up.
I wonder if we can go back to that. We were talking a little bit when you were 5 seems to be an important age for you, when things maybe started to click in.
A little bit more,
you know?
yeah.
Do you have memories of how that happened? Did you just start to discover language?
Yeah, I guess I just started to discover it, and then I wasn't really in touch with my emotions. When I get frustrated, I just start like screaming and yelling.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't put into words what I can now to say I'm frustrated, I need help.
Yeah.
And it's very, very tough, but it does get better. Just keep trying. Therapy, ABA, IBI are the way to go. Go Geneva Center or Carrie's Place. Go to Holland Bloor View. Go to ISAND. Go to Easter Seals, wherever you can, and they will help you tremendously. They're all absolutely amazing organizations.
I'm curious, what came first? Did speech come first, or did you learn to read first, or identify words in
Speech,
text?
I think, came first, and then reading and speech and text.
See, that's interesting. My kids, it was the other way around.
Yeah, for my son, it was the other way around too. It was the other way around.
I have friends who are on the autism spectrum who, before they even started walking, they learned how to swim before they started walking.
Whoa, neat.
Isn't that interesting? So development is kind of
all over the place.
Oh yeah, all over the place, in ways that we don't expect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If I was going to add something for Samantha, I would say be careful not to compare your kids to other kids.
Yeah.
Always compare your kids to where they were, say, 6 months ago. That's the only meaningful comparison.
Yeah.
Holy, we have so many questions coming in.
This is great. How are you doing?
Good.
Good? Okay.
Great.
All right.
Janelle wants to know, has it been difficult for you to navigate the world of adult services?
Yeah, it's the thing that I'm not happy with any of the governments we've had is once you hit 18, you become a number. Up until 18, you have just countless services, and then when you hit 18, those services drop off the map. And that needs to not happen. We need to have those same services available for adults, not just adult social groups, but they need to have ABA and IBI available to adults, and they need to have other places like day camps or overnight camps available to adults with special needs and teenagers who are 18, 19 years old. That's all I can say.
What was that like when suddenly you had services set up, you had support set up, and then all of a sudden they were gone? What was that like?
Through the OEC, I learned, like, I had to fight. I had to speak at rallies and get interviewed by the media and try and tell my story and try and convince the government to bring back all those services for people 18 and over. And we had 2 amazing rallies at Queen's Park. Autism doesn't end at school, and Autism doesn't end at 5. Amazing rallies. We had a couple politicians come out to both rallies. The amazing Lisa Gretzky, Monique Taylor, 2 advocates. I believe Lisa Gretzky has a daughter with special needs.
I don't know. I've never asked her.
But Lisa Gretzky is an absolutely amazing politician. Monique Taylor and just so many other amazing politicians came out for our cause and to help us fight the government for the services that adult children with special needs and teenage children with special needs need so badly.
Josh wants to know, what can the government do to improve funding and opportunities for you? What if you were in charge of adult services?
Yeah.
Would you like to see more passport funding, more opportunities? What would you like?
more opportunities. When I was little, I used to get, from Reach the Rainbow, I used to get services for camp. They'd get us free tickets to like Marlies games and Raptors games and Leafs games in the special section designed for people with special needs and their families. And not just camp, but more, not passport funding, but ODSP, the amount we get is not livable, especially in Toronto being one of the most expensive cities in the world to live. Like $900 a month is not going to cut it. Even if they're talking about bringing it up 200 to like, I think $1,100, that's not going to cut it. We need way, way more in order to be able to function with just the basic necessities.
Okay. Kristen Murphy wants to know, and this is a big question, well, two, she's asked. Did you have supports in place in grade school and high school? Let's start with there, and then there's two follow-ups.
Yeah, grade school, yeah. I got trained up on personal equipment, so laptops, desktop computers, with one of the greatest programs I think that's ever been invented, Kurzweil 3000. So if you can't type or write, it has a tap-to-talk app. And it's one of the most amazing things that I think helped me throughout the years. And
because you're a child, you may not have been aware of how these supports appeared in front of you.
I had no idea. All I know is they just suddenly appeared out of nowhere.
They suddenly appeared out of nowhere.
And then I had in high school, the first high school I went to, that was just out the window. Like, they didn't really care. And the public school system is falling apart for a number of reasons.
Let me ask you, when you say they didn't really care,
like they didn't transfer my laptop or any of my equipment. They left it at my elementary school for someone else to use.
Okay.
With all my saved files, all like the info on me that my teachers would have needed.
Right. But
they just didn't really care.
Wow. Kristen also wants to know, were you mainstreamed? Were you in special ed classes?
I was in special ed. Grade 8 was kind of a funny year where there was a few classes where I was ahead of my fellow classmates in the special ed stream. So about halfway through the year, they moved me into mainstream for a couple of subjects. So I was still in the special ed for a couple of subjects as well, kind of half-half in grade 8. One of the programs that I found really let my creative juices flow was art. And halfway through the year in grade 8, art class was cut overnight. And that was one of the things that really pissed me off. And I remember the education minister and the superintendent coming, and I'm like, why are you cutting art or these programs which I like so much? And they just kind of blew me off, like I didn't even exist. And that's what really pissed me off.
Yeah. So what subjects did you shine in?
I've always been very athletic, so phys ed, and then art, English, history, geography. My mom used to be a history and geography teacher years before she even joined the film industry, and then now she's in the interior design industry. She left the film industry. And so I was always very good at history and geography because my mom kind of drilled it into me and my brother when we were younger. Yeah. So by the time I got to high school, I already knew what I was doing. I was way ahead of the game. And I'll be honest, I slept through history and geography class because I looked at the book and I'm like, oh, I already know what I'm doing. It's like, I have insomnia, so I just use those classes to catch up on my lost sleep and sleep in class.
Oh, dear. And do you like to write?
No, but I like posting statuses on Facebook, and I'm not really big into writing. No.
Maybe next time we can bring on Elsbeth because she's like you. She loves art, but she also loves writing.
Yeah.
And she, like me, likes anime and comic books.
Yeah. We're coming for you, Elsbeth.
Yeah. It just goes to show, like, if you've met one person with autism, you've met one person with autism.
Everyone is very different. Everyone is unique.
Laura has more
everyone's
questions.
different.
I do. Kristen wants to know your thoughts on the pros and cons of mainstreaming kids with autism versus special education.
Good question.
It's a big question.
Mainstreaming, sometimes it can get overwhelming, which is a con. But special education, one of the cons is people label you as different, and I got called like retarded or slow or dumb, and so those labels kind of stick to you. In terms of what I think works best for people, I know people, not everyone can afford it, but private school did wonders for me. Small class environments, assistive technology for every single student in the school. when I first started, we were like 12 kids, grade 9 through 12, and then my last year we were like we were, I think, 50 grade, so 50 for the whole school, grades 9 through 12, and now they've just hit their max at about 85 kids.
You mentioned people calling you names.
Yeah, there's some sad emojis coming
yeah,
up in response
people
to that.
calling you names. What can you tell us a story about?
Yeah, I just always used to get called retarded or dumb or stupid.
Who would call you?
Fellow students, and it really, kids don't realize how much bullying hurts and how bullying, not just in person but online, can lead to a kid committing suicide. They don't realize the damage of words.
Yeah.
And they don't realize the harm they're doing. And I think not just the education system, not just the parents, but the police and the law and the government really need to crack down on what people are saying to each other online.
When people called you names and made you feel really, really sad, what did you do to work through those moments?
I kind of just stuck to my strengths and knew what I was good at and knew what I wasn't. And even to this day, I struggle with math and science. They're like a foreign language to me. I just don't understand them.
Me too.
Whereas history, geography, art, English, and phys ed, I thrived in, and I was pretty much right at the same level as everyone else.
Yeah. Did you have friends that understood?
Yeah, I definitely had friends, and I had a small group of friends. I've learned that it's better to have a small group of friends than a large group of friends, because the bigger your friend group is, the more likely you are to have fake friends who are using you for one reason or another.
Was it easy to find friends when you were in high school?
No, very hard to find friends. It took me a while, but I'm lucky that the street I live on has a lot of kids, me and my brother's age, who we made friends with. Yeah. I'm lucky that my best friend in the whole world lives right across the road from me, like a 2-second walk, and we often hang out. We go to the gym, we watch Netflix, we like to go airplane spotting.
Really?
So just, yeah, we
That's
really
fun.
just like to do, we're not into the typical 20-year-old, clubbing and partying.
Yeah.
We tried that once just to see how we liked it. We just didn't like it. We went to the government club, and just stuff we saw was just like,
the government's still
us.
around?
Oh no, it shut down. But before it shut down, they had one last March break thing, and we went, and just the amount of drugs that got in there, and the amount of people we saw just like pretty much ODing in the bathrooms, and we're just like, yeah, we're out of here.
Not your scene.
Not, or even my friends. My friends are not big into clubbing or partying either. We're not into that kind of stuff.
What else do you do with your friends? That's wholesome.
We like to have bonfires in the summer. In my friend's backyard, he's got a very nice fire pit. We roast s'mores. Sometimes we'll cook food over the fire. We have like a mini grill that we can put, and we do burgers, hot dogs. We have friends who are vegetarian, so we put on some veggie dogs or veggie burgers. And we just have a good time and listen to music. Sometimes we'll ride our longboards in the summer. We'll go swimming. We'll play a lot of sports like basketball, soccer, hockey. We'll hit a ball around with a baseball bat or play two-hand touch football.
One more question about friends. Yeah, it's okay.
How did you find each other?
My friends.
You mentioned it was difficult to make friends. So
well, I didn't have friends at one point, and my dad said, "Go out into the street with your hockey stick and the net, and start hitting the ball around." And sure enough, half an hour later, there was like 18 kids just hitting a ball around together, and then we just kind of bonded from there.
That's the most Canadian story I've ever heard. Okay.
But the thing is, a lot of my friends, like myself, are not born in this country. A lot of my good friends are born in Trinidad and Tobago, India, Poland, Germany, the UK, like Scotland, England. So we know what it's like to have to come to a whole new country and, a different society, a different culture. And we know what it's like, and we know the struggle of making it in a new country. So that's how we understand each other better, because we're so well versed that it's almost like we're the G8 summit together, and we bring our countries close together. And I'm hoping that what we do can help countries in the bigger scheme become allies and not just be at war with each other.
Oh, that's an amazing message. Nelson's asking a question that's sort of related to what we were talking about how kids can be cruel. Yeah. And I want you to be careful with this question, not to name names.
Yeah.
But he's asking, did you ever have any family members like parents, siblings, relatives who might have hurt you or humiliated you by looking down on you or stigmatizing you because of your condition. If this is true, and this is, I think, the really important part of the question, what advice can you give to ASD people who have this kind of troubled family relationship?
I'm lucky that my family have all been good to the tune where they didn't stigmatize me, they didn't put me down. I'm lucky that way, but just try and educate your family members and let them know that they're different, not less, and show them the Temple Grandin movie, show them the Ontario Autism Coalition, the Ontario Disability Coalition, and so many other amazing Facebook groups, Racing with Autism, Jake's House for Autism Charity. There's so many others out there, and educate them. Don't let them put your child down, and if they still refuse, then in all honesty, walk away. They're not worth your time if they're going to continue. It's not worth it.
All right, here's a totally different question, but I think a really important one. Janet wants to know, did you ever, and I want you to listen to, there's a series of questions here. Did you ever do ABA therapy? Did you find it helpful? I find that some therapists are quite mechanical and others are more natural or organic. Did you find the same thing? And if so, did you get more out of one or the other?
I didn't do ABA or IBI. I just did group therapy, and I did like music and sensory therapy. But I never did ABA or IBI. So that's my answer to that question.
All right, we'll try maybe in a future Facebook Live to bring on some people that have had that experience. You're also, just so you know, Michau, you're getting a lot of positive comments about it's just so awesome to hear you, and we're so thankful for you for doing this. Tons of those comments coming in. Lisa wants to ask something, and we kind of touched on this a little bit before, but maybe we can go deeper. She says, my 4-year-old rather, is nonverbal, and it's hard to figure out if he understands what I'm saying to him. Do you remember understanding what people were saying to you at that age, at age 4?
No, I really didn't understand what was being said around me. I didn't understand what the world was around me. I wasn't aware of so many things I'm aware of today, and eventually your son with therapy will come to understand the world better and understand you, and you will eventually be able to understand him better and what's going on with him, and just keep, loving him, keep taking him to therapy that you find works. Try different therapies, and whatever works, just keep going with that.
Could we go back to that time again? When a grown-up was talking to you, wah, 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 right? And you were trying, I assume, to understand what they want. What do they want?
Yeah, but I didn't understand, and then I get frustrated.
Yeah, do you have a sense of how long it would take before you couldn't take it anymore?
Probably 15 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes.
So at that time, do you recall trying to connect? And,
definitely.
Because I think, being just a mom, sometimes little kids don't indicate to us that they're listening.
Yeah.
And because they don't know that they're supposed to do that.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
And I'm just wondering, maybe I'm beating a dead horse now, but how long did it take before you're white knuckling it, and before you just couldn't take it anymore?
Like I said, probably 15, 20 minutes, and then I just probably scream or throw a tantrum.
Yeah. And did you feel remorse after a tantrum or release?
I kind of feel sad, and I didn't know why I threw a tantrum, and I'd feel very sad, and I wouldn't know why exactly. It was very confusing at that age.
Yeah.
Okay, our friend Beth wants to know, how old were you when you learned of your diagnosis, and what was that like to become aware of this word autism?
I was diagnosed at age 7, like I said, by world-renowned autism specialist, Dr. Wendy Roberts. And for me, I didn't want to have some label attached to me. But then as I got older, it kind of made me realize it wasn't quite as bad as people make it out to be. And it became quite a positive thing in my life, and it helped me to become the advocate I am today, and that I'm still hoping to become one day.
Can I fast forward a little bit to you today? Have you ever had a conversation with a professional, a therapist, a doctor, where they make an assumption about you that you disagree with?
No, I mean, I've had coworkers, when I used to work for the TTC, I've had my shift manager be like, oh, don't tell people you're autistic because I don't want them thinking differently of you or badly of you. Like, just try and act normal. And I'm like, what is normal?
Yeah,
It's so
what does that
overrated.
mean? What does that mean to you? What does act normal mean?
I guess don't stick out with weird behaviors or something.
See,
like
I don't
that.
know what that means either. I really don't. I don't. Yeah. When someone says that to you, what is your response?
I kind of tell them that that's wrong and that I should be free to be myself and not be judged.
Yeah.
And not be scrutinized.
Yeah.
Janet wants to know, what private school did you go to?
Oh, probably the best school that I could ever recommend, the YMCA Academy. It's located at 15 Brettle Bane, just off of Yonge Street between Yonge and Wellesley and College and Yonge. And it's world-renowned. The teachers there are the best. They truly care. They go above and beyond to get the students to pass. And here's the thing that was very weird for me. Growing up and being in the education system in the public school, you have to call someone Miss this or Mr. that. At the YMCA Academy, you call your teachers by their first name. And I asked why, and they said it's a sign of mutual respect.
Wow. Okay. Gada wants to know, did you have a one-to-one support worker?
Yes. If you go back and watch earlier on in the video, I had a one-to-one named Ken. He worked with me for several years from age 12 to age 19. We're still very dear friends. He's still a big part of my life. He's always phoning me. And when my dad posted about my attending at both rallies, he said it made him very, very proud. And he showed up by surprise to my 21st birthday when I had not seen him for half a year. And he's still a big part of my life. Ken, if you're watching this, buddy, I love you. Come see me.
Hi, Ken.
Come see me, bro. Just come visit. Everyone wants to see you. We love you.
Oh, that's so cool. Janet, again, asks, this is, I think, a really important question. What can we do to help prepare kids to deal with cruel comments? Is there anything you remember a parent or a teacher saying to you to help you steel yourself against the cruelty that can sometimes play out in schoolyards?
I have very big feet. I've always had big feet. And when we go swimming, and my feet would be more noticeable then when they're not in shoes and socks.
Perfect for swimming.
People used to call me Bigfoot or duck feet, and then my mom told me to come back with this. All the better to kick you with. That was my retort.
Oh, that's a good one. I got called Big Nose.
Big Nose?
Yeah.
I got called Bigfoot or
big
duck feet.
everything.
And they're like, oh, we finally found Bigfoot. He exists. It's Miko.
But big feet are the perfect thing for swimming.
Exactly. And that propels me faster. It makes me a faster swimmer. I used to do competitive gymnastics. I used to do competitive swim racing, competitive diving. I used to be a very competitive athlete until a number of injuries kind of derailed that.
Eat my wake.
Nice.
But what happened with gymnastics was I was in an accident and it unfortunately ended my gymnastics career. I broke my arm, my elbow, and I still have 2 pins holding my elbow together. I was probably about 10 years off from making the Olympics.
Oh, dude. Oh, I can relate to that. I used to do ballet a million years ago. And
my coach, I still see me, lives in my neighborhood, and he's always bugging me to come back to training, but I've moved on. It's not something I want.
Yeah, I hear you.
And he still bugs me to this day. Come back. You were so good. We can get you to the level you were. And I'm like, it's not in the cards.
All right. Different question. Nelson wants to know, do you think that teachers are responsible for school bullying? And how do you deal with it?
Teachers need to be more aware, and that's the thing about the public school system and why it doesn't work. The class sizes are way too big. The teachers and the principals cannot deal with every single bullying case, and that's what's so dangerous about. They're not aware of everything that's going on, and so many things slip under the radar that are so just deadly, that can lead to very deadly things. And that's why you hear of all these school shootings, Dawson College, Columbine, Virginia Tech, some of the most deadly school shootings in the history. And all these people were bullied to the point where they felt they need to come on a shooting rampage and just shoot up the school.
When you were bullied, Did you ever feel that the situation was resolved by the people who were working with you, like your teachers and the principal? Did you
Not in the public school system, but in the private school system. Even when I was at the academy, I got bullied, but not nearly as badly. But the teachers were on top of it like that. They'd squash it right away.
Gee, big surprise. Class size?
Class size.
My biggest class size at the academy was 17 kids to 2 teachers.
That's wow. I can't imagine.
What's the ratio for that? Like 1 to
6?
Like 17 kids to what's the ratio?
Stay tuned for Laura's talk on education. We're not, by the way, the OAC is not saying that you should send your kids to private school. This is Miko's story.
But what I can say is, if you have the funds to send your children to private school, pull your children out of the public school system. It does not work. Private school is the way to go.
It breaks my heart as a teacher in the public system to hear you say that, and yet to recognize at the same time that there's truth in it.
Yeah.
You know, we had a friend of ours who was overseas for a number of years and came back to Canada and asked us our advice on the school system, and I found myself not wanting to say the words, hey, if you can afford private school, do it. But it's tough. The supports just aren't there. Kristen wants to know a little bit about sensory issues and you. Did you receive any sensory support in schools, or what do you use today to help meet your sensory needs?
I don't have a lot of sensory issues. Okay. The one thing I'm not looking forward to when I go traveling to Canada is sand. Is I think my only sensory issue. I cannot stand when sand touches my skin.
It's interesting though, because
it's very. It feels like knives and daggers, like stabbing.
It feels like that.
Can you go to the beach?
Yeah, but I always wear closed-toe shoes and socks.
Yeah. But do you remember the first thing we asked you about your early memory? You said you were playing in the sand.
But I was wearing full clothes. I wasn't wearing t-shirt and shorts. I was wearing closed-toed shoes, closed heels, and socks. So
do you remember what sand felt like when you were that age? Is it similar?
No, I couldn't remember.
It's got an alarm clock. I'll go get it.
That beeping is an alarm clock going off in the other room. Apologies. So you don't remember. I'm just curious because we talked about sand when you were little, and I was just wondering if it was the same kind of challenge through your life, or did
my hands is not that bad, but with my feet it's really bad.
It's really bad. Yeah.
So that's why every time I go to the beach, people stare at me, but once they learn about why I wear what I wear, they're pretty accepting.
Do you feel that people stare at you a lot?
Yeah, I definitely have people staring at me a lot, and I have to say, since I've done the rallies and since I've been interviewed a number of times in the media, I've been at restaurants with friends, just minding my own business. I've had people taking photos of me. I've had people staring at me, pointing at me and talking. I know they're talking about me when I'm with my friends out in the public space. And I guess it's something that comes with being in the media. A lot of people are going to recognize you, and they're going to, sometimes they're going to come up to you and they're going to want you to talk to them. Other times they're just going to somehow end up at the same restaurant, and next thing you know, they're taking pictures of you or staring at you and pointing at you and talking about you to their friends or whoever else they're with.
Did this happen to you before you became famous?
I'm not famous yet, but no, I would never have that kind of thing.
So you haven't had the experience of, say, adults or strangers staring at you and making
well, no, when I was in elementary school, the parents would often stare at me in a weird way.
Yeah.
But it's more than a weird way with people these days. They I guess they see me in the media, doing rallies, talking to the news teams, talking to politicians. Yeah. And then it's kind of not like this kid's weird. It's like, wow, this kid's going places. Yeah. And next thing you know, they're taking photos of you. And
yeah. When you say that the grown-ups, when you were a child, would look at you in a weird way, what do you mean by that?
They kind of look at you like, what is this kid doing? Why is he here? Very just, almost as they were disgusted to see me.
And how did you feel about that?
I wasn't really aware of it until people started pointing it out.
So someone had to point out to you that you were being watched, that you were being observed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
was that a surprise to you?
Yeah, kind of at first, but then after a while I got used to it, and especially being in the media, it's no secret to me that people that are in the media often get followed everywhere they go. People are often taking photos of them and often coming up to them when they're just trying to live a daily normal life. That's the price of fame. You don't get privacy. When you become famous, privacy goes out the window.
Sherry has a really great question. She says her son, who's 6, clearly doesn't understand why he's been through all sorts of testing recently. And now that he's been diagnosed, she's asking, at what age do you think she should fully explain autism? Or maybe I can modify this question if I hope it's okay, Sherry. If you could go back to when you were told that you had autism, how do you wish someone had explained it to you?
Kind of the way that Temple Grandin explains in the movie, where they both said, you're different, but you're not less. You're just the same as everyone else, just a little bit different. And being more gentle and more soft, I guess.
So, did that news come to you in a harsh way?
I wouldn't say harsh, but it was just a very, unexpected thing, and I didn't know what was going to happen from then on. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of frightening, but kind of weird at the same time.
Can you remember what you perceived different to be? That seemed different's just kind of
not the same as everyone else, and that I have this label attached to me that's going to be attached to me for life.
But how did that come across to you? Like, when I think different could mean you have a purple earlobe, or
it just means that I function differently. I understand things differently, and I learn differently from other people. And I'm a little bit more delayed than they are, but I'm still just as smart as them. It just takes me a little bit longer to learn things.
Okay. Can I add on to it? Because the process for our son was a really tricky one too, and this will give you time to take a drink because you're doing amazing through all of this.
Do you want more Dr. Pepper? Should I get you
not right now.
Okay. Dr. Pepper is his favorite drink.
Yeah, he's Dr. Pepper. I'm
Dr. Pepper, sponsor me. If you see this, hit me up for a sponsorship, and then
that's right.
When I get rich and famous, I'm going to be buying a lot of Gucci. So Gucci, if you're seeing this, hit me up, sponsor me. Thank you.
Me, I just want Diet Coke for life.
Yeah, me too.
I just want Gucci and Dr. Pepper.
Okay, so back to the explaining diagnosis. Something that I found helped with our son Sherry is that I would look for opportunities where I was sure that Cliff was doing something a little bit differently because of his autism, and I would look for opportunities to comment on how in that moment his autism was helping do something better than I could do it. So, Cliff's ability with transit and maps. And I would say, gee, Cliff, I wish I could remember all the bus numbers the way you do. My brain doesn't have autism. I can't remember all those details.
And I've got a friend from camp who, if you give him the name of a movie from when movies first started coming out, he can tell you the day of the month, the day of the week, and the year it came out.
There's a lot of people
any movie that's ever come out in the history of movies. And he can name every bus route, every train route, every streetcar route. He can name every train cart number on that whole system, which blows my mind.
Yeah. That would have been a good skill to have when you were working for the TTC.
Well, no, I learned the map pretty well. I learned how to get to places, and I would often use my map that I had in my little pouch as a reference. And
or you can just call Cliff.
Yeah, you can call Cliff.
But yeah, Sherry, I think that's important to talk about the positives of autism
and not the negatives,
and not just the negatives.
Did you have people in your life that did that for you?
Yeah, like I said, my parents, my brother, my friends who've been so great. Even some of my friends from camp who don't have siblings or direct family members, but they have extended family members on the autism spectrum who've been allies for me.
Yeah, you mentioned camp a lot. I too, I went to a summer camp. In my high school, I wasn't one of the cool kids. But at my summer camp, I found friends.
Yeah, at summer camp, I found lifelong friends who I'm so grateful to know, who every time they watch me do a live stream or watch me do a media thing, they're like, Miko, you are going to be famous one day. You're going to be rich, and you're going to kill it. And people often say, when you become famous, you forget your friends and just start hanging with celebrities. That's not true. I would never forget any of my friends. They've helped me. Me and my group of friends have had some tragedies. We've lost a couple friends very, very young, taken way too soon from us. And to build that bond and have to go through something like that as a group of friends builds that bond so strong that no matter the distance between us, we are still together, united as one.
This is a good time to tell you some of the compliments that are coming on. Swati wants to say she's very proud of you. You are such an inspiring person. Georgina's watching. Hi there. Stuart's watching. Hey, Stu. Jason wants to know your thoughts on Catholic versus public school boards. I don't know if you have any opinions on that. And
Honestly,
Kristen's pointing out we can't all afford private school, which is so
the thing that I liked about the academy is a lot of the kids came from less fortunate homes in like Jane Finch and Regent Park. The academy, if they like a student enough, will sponsor and pay for your education.
This is gonna be their switchboard's gonna be lighting up.
They are.
Yeah.
They are.
Go to the YMCA Academy, check out their Facebook page, their Twitter, their website, and just read about all the amazing things that they do. They have so many amazing opportunities. I went to We Day, which is made to help build wells in schools in Africa by Craig and Mark Hilberger. I got to see so many amazing things that truly touched me and changed my life. I got to see Martin Luther King Jr.'s son and daughter read his I Have a Dream speech live in person. And to me, that was probably the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Wow.
I got to meet Michael Pinball Clemens. I got to meet Imagine Dragon, Avril Lavigne, who used to be my celebrity crush before Emma Watson. I got to meet Kanon, Nelly Furtado. I've met so many amazing people through We Day. We Day is one of the coolest events that the Academy does every year.
Yeah.
They go to my summer camp. They actually do a week at my summer camp at YMCA Camp Pinecrest. Check it out. Best camp out there, hands down. And when I went up with my school, the first people to greet me coming off the bus was the head people at the camp.
Nice.
And I wasn't popular in school, but at camp, everyone knew me, and I was friends with, I'd say 99% of, there's 1% of people that I just didn't get along with.
There's always some.
Did that help carry you through, knowing that you had so many people who cared about you?
Yeah, but
That
we're all scattered. Like, we're all over Ontario. I have friends who were born in Canada but have been raised in the States as far as Arizona, California, and they come from the States to camp every summer. And knowing that I have friends all over, and it's just really cool to see how far in between we are, but knowing that no matter the distance, we are still united as one.
I want to ask you a dumb question.
Okay.
I think some parents wonder if their children love them.
I mean, I have a really great bond with my parents. I'm really, really close with them. I'm so thankful for everything they've done for me. But I do have friends who are in the unfortunate situation that they are not close with their parents. They do not like their parents whatsoever. I have one friend who despises his parents and wants nothing to do with his parents.
Mm-hmm. When I use the word love, what do you think of?
Someone that, you know, you have an eternal bond with, and someone that is going to be there for you from day one until the end of time. And I'm so thankful for my brother. My younger brother's also been one of my biggest supporters. And a lot of our mutual friends, and having so many amazing friends has brought a lot of opportunities. One of my friends 2 years ago asked me to be a best man and bachelor at his wedding. Right after proposing to his girlfriend in front of all of our friends, he then came right to me and asked me to be a best man and groomsman at his wedding, and I was so honored.
Aww.
And I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
A great comment from Kristen, and there's no question in this, but just a comment going back to school and bullying and that kind of stuff. She's pointing out that more supervision is needed during recess and lunches, and that's really key. Oh, look at all the love you're getting for what you just said.
Yeah, there definitely needs to be more supervision. At the elementary school, they did beef it up. They hired people from outside of the school to be lunchroom ladies, and then they hired a bunch of neighborhood parents on a volunteer basis to come and supervise and get more numbers for the kids. But they were still outnumbered a lot, no matter how much they tried.
Here's a question from Tina. She says her son is 7 and is very much aware of his differences from his peers, and he tries very hard to interact, but it never seems to work. She says, I can see it starting to affect him, and he feels like it's his fault. If I try to tell him they don't hate him, They just don't understand you all the time. He gets mad at me. Any ideas on a different way to explain it to him?
Just explain that kids are harsh and that they will mature over time. I've had people who used to bully me a lot, who then I ran into years later, and they apologized, and I've since become friends with. Two of my friends I have today used to be some of my biggest tormentors, but then we met at like a mutual friends party, and then they apologized, and then we're like, you know, we really feel bad, and we want to, you know, become friends if you're okay with that. And we become friends, and they've now become some of my biggest supporters.
It's amazing.
Can you remember your first friend?
Yeah, it was a guy who used to live across the road from me, and he was probably my first friend. We went to daycare together, we went to school together, we lived in the same neighborhood, but then eventually I moved onto the same street as him, right across the road from him. He lives next door to my best friend, or used to live next door, but he's since moved away. But yeah, he was probably my first friend, and
What was he like?
he was cool. Like, we were very different, but it kept our friendship interesting. Like, we both liked sports, but he was also very big into reading and writing, and very big into dinosaurs and like ancient history. And whereas I was more sports, more kind of current day events, but we were able to like bond over sports, and it kept our friendship interesting.
That's neat. Nelson has an interesting comment here. He says the best way to deal with school bullying, whether by peers or teachers, is to get parents involved in a parent conference and not to leave a child with ASD to try to do it all by him or herself.
Yeah, parents play a really key role in it. I mean, Karen and Laura advocate for their kids just like my parents advocated for me, and so many of my other friends on the autism spectrum had their parents advocate for them. It really starts with the parents, and the parents need to go to school directly, whether it be the superintendent, whether it be the principal or vice principal or teacher, and be like, this is what works for my kid, this is what doesn't work.
Right. And Nelson's kind of echoing what you just said, a follow-up comment. He says it's not the child's fault, but it's the caregiver's responsibility to be there for him.
Exactly.
And he also wants to know, and you're in charge of how much you answer this, but he wonders if you have any conditions besides ASD.
Yes, I have clinical depression, chronic anxiety. I'm legally blind in my right eye. I have one kidney.
I had no idea.
ADHD, OCD, and ADD.
What happened to your other kidney?
I was only born with one kidney.
Really?
What?
Yeah.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah.
That's a thing.
Called a horseshoe kidney, and people, it's rare, but people are born with it.
A horseshoe kidney.
Oh, I've heard.
Because it's shaped like a horseshoe.
Yeah. Wow. Guys, there's that's the end of our questions. If you have any more, start typing now. Because we've got this amazing, isn't he awesome? Amazing young man on the spectrum, and he's being so generous with sharing his experiences and his thoughts. So if you
I just want to say, I know the Ontario Autism Coalition and all the other groups I'm in only go so far, but I have parents reaching out to me on a daily basis from all over the world and trying to figure out how to help their kids, and I just find it so honoring and so fulfilling to have that experience and know that my reach goes so much farther than just Ontario and Canada and America, that it goes worldwide, and that I'm slowly becoming this global sensation. And so to that, I'm very, very honored. Thank you.
Let me ask you then, what questions are people sending you that we have not asked you yet?
It's really just similar. Like, how can I help my child who's nonverbal? How can I, get the best education and life opportunities for my child? It's basically the same question.
What's the most original question you've ever been asked?
How can I go about making sure my child has the best life possible? I think is probably the most original question.
What's your response to that?
Just nurture them, love them, and don't worry and don't care about what society thinks. Society, yes, it's changing in a positive direction, but more needs to be done, and there needs to be more awareness, and the governments need to do more. And the more money it's putting to people, not just autism, with all disabilities, the better.
That's really good. Samantha's asking a question, but Samantha, I'm going to ask you to send this question either to me or Bruce through private messenger, because she's asking about funding options while your child is on the wait list. Another person you can message is one of our group admins, Myra Zattel, and she'll send you a great list of links that you can go to look for different funding. Can you talk a little bit more about, you mentioned Reach for the Rainbow, which is one of the groups I'd recommend.
Yeah.
And the support that they give you. They pay for one-to-one workers to assist you.
Well, no, my worker wasn't through Reach for Rainbow. He was through another organization. But
okay.
the services I got was through camp to get a one-to-one counselor for events, tickets to events like Marlies games, Raptors games, Leafs games, a couple football games. That was more the services that they got me and my family.
Neat. Okay.
What kind of hobbies do you have?
Sports is my hobby. I used to play, but over the last few years, I've been marred by injuries, and the body can only take so much. And now, just to function on a day-to-day basis, I have to have intense physio and mass loss therapy just to keep my body going. It's a sad reality that with sports, especially with concussions, you don't want to be playing around with that. Go and watch Will Smith's concussion movie. It is by far one of the most mind-boggling movies I've ever seen. You learn about this culture in athletics where you play through injuries that you should not be playing through. I remember grade 8. I played through a broken ankle my championship game because it meant so much to me.
Yikes.
And my coaches were on board with that, which they should not have been. But I froze my ankle before the game and was playing on a broken ankle because I saw that as being my claim to fame, even though I didn't. That's not all that fame. But it's...
So you're susceptible to being macho just like any other guy?
Athletics is all about macho, and we need to get the conversation going, like Brian Burke and his family, about athletes being able to not be scrutinized for coming out as gay in the athletics community, because that's very scrutinized in the athletics community. We need to end that, and we need to end the stigma around being gay, around mental health, around not being able to play through injuries. I remember over the last couple of years, I've heard of players playing through concussions in hockey, and that is not okay. That is a brain injury. That is not something you mess with. And you watch these athletes years down the line, they will be so messed up from playing through concussions because of the damage that is done to the brain. They will have CTE, which is greatly explained in Will Smith's concussion movie. Go watch it. One of the best movies I've ever seen.
I have a question for you. What are some of your favorite movies? You've mentioned one already, and or books or TV shows that deal with autism. Which ones do you think?
I really like Temple Grandin. That movie was absolutely amazing.
The one with Claire Danes?
Yep. And I even have started reading Carly Fleischman's book, Carly's Voice.
It's awesome.
My aunt, when she read it, when she came here for a month from South Africa, she read it and she was just bewildered by it. And I want to get a copy for my dad's other sister and my grandmother to read, because I think it would really open their minds a lot.
Nice.
Go and buy Carly's Voice. You can buy it, I think, Amazon, eBay. You can go to Chapters or Indigo if they're still around. I don't even know.
I want to ask you about dating, and if this is too personal, tell me to back off. But without going into specifics, when you first started to become interested in making friends, let's say, what did you have challenges? Was it easy to meet people?
No, it was very hard, and I had to get a lot of help from my parents and from autism specialists like Dr. Wendy Roberts. And it took years and years, but now that I've become more confident, I'm slowly now only starting to find it easier to make friends.
What confused you about this? Dating is a really confusing time for everybody,
It is.
And if you have a hard time reading signals and you're not quite sure, does somebody like you? It's hell. Frankly, it's
you don't know if they like you for you, or if you have a lot of money, if they like you for your money. You don't know. So you have to be so careful.
When you were getting guidance, which is also a sensitive place for any young person, right? Because people are messing with very, very deep personal feelings, right? So what helped? What helped you make connections all on your own?
Being in a small class environment, in grade 8, my homeroom was only about 12 kids to 2 teachers. which is like 1:6 ratio, which is good.
Mm-hmm.
But even 2:17 is still good. I mean, that's still 1 to what, like 13 or 14.
Mm-hmm. And when you found somebody that you liked and it went well, what did you do? Again, it's hard.
I think I tried too hard, and sometimes I would chase people away.
Tried too hard. Okay. Maybe were you too intense?
Yeah, I think too intense.
I like you so much.
Yeah, and they didn't have the same feelings. And
I was like that too.
And you just have to learn over time and kind of feel the person out in terms of feeling, okay, is this what they're feeling? Is that what they're feeling? And also just don't be scared to ask. Like, I sometimes ask my friends, like, how are you feeling? Like, am I too intense? Am I not? And when me and my friends are partying, I tend to get really loud. My friends are like, Michau, volume down.
Yeah.
And it's just when I party, I get overexcited.
Yeah.
And when I'm hanging out with my friends, I just get way overexcited, and my voice just goes, and I need to bring it down like 6 notches.
We have more questions coming in, and these are really interesting. So Jess wants to know, she says, I have a hard time keeping my son trying new things out of his comfort zone. Now, he's 4 years old. Sometimes it works out well, and other times not so much. Do you think it is better to have him keep trying new things, or keep him in situations that I know are more comfortable for him?
Just feel out for what works. Like, if you try something new with him and he likes it, continue. But if not, just slow it down a little bit and then wait for him to mature a little bit more. And people with autism or any intellectual disability, they mature less fast, and they take longer to mature, and just, give them time and they'll catch up eventually.
Is it better to play to somebody's strengths or to work on their skills that they may be lacking?
I would say play to their strengths for the first bit and then try and get their weaknesses to be less weak and more strength. And one of the other things that I think the government needs to do is they need to make every building accessible for people in wheelchairs, me and Laura know a number of parents who have children who are adults who are not toilet trained, and they need to make more accessible spaces for the parents to be able to change their kids, and because not
a dirty floor. Right?
Yeah, not a dirty floor, and there's a lot of stigma where you see sometimes parents are forced to change their kids in the back of a car in the park. It's illegal after a certain age, but sometimes there's just no public washroom to go to, so they need to put a public washroom at every park so the parents aren't forced into that situation.
I've got a petition up on my Facebook page about that if you want to sign it.
I will definitely sign it.
Jess, I'm just going to add on to what Karen and Nico said about that. I remember when my kid was 4 or 5, the first one that was diagnosed with autism, really struggling with the very issue that you've brought up, and I'll share with you what might be my best mom moment or my worst mom moment ever. But it was in a McDonald's. It depends.
They're all 50% right, 50% wrong.
Well, people will make up their own mind. But it was in a McDonald's playland. And in this playland, there were 2 slides. There was the blue slide and there was the yellow slide. And there were 2 ways to go up into the tubes. And Cliff had mastered the one on the right. And he was stuck. And I watched this for about 15 minutes. He was stuck in a loop where he would go up one side, come down the blue slide, and then go back up again. And he would only go in that one route. And there was so much more to explore. But he got stuck. And I hear what you're saying about comfort zone. Now, I don't know what got into me. But I picked him up and I put him in the football hold and I carried him over to the other side and I pushed him up the steps of the play place and made him go up the other side. Well, he screamed his head off. All the other moms in the place are looking at me, judging me and thinking, I don't know what about me. But when we finally got to the top and Cliff was able to see through to the other side, he looked back at me, stopped crying all of a sudden and gave me this wow face, and then crawled as fast as he could through the other tube, and it was like I'd opened up this whole new world for him.
And going back to Laura's thing, I think the government needs to put more money and more funding to parents who have children who are not toilet trained at a later age for supplies.
Yes.
And there needs to be a lot more money, because parents paying out of pockets, it's very, very expensive.
It is expensive. Easter Seals has a grant. If you don't know about it, you can apply for. It's not much. It's like $200 a year, but
There needs to be way more than that.
It's $200 a year.
Takes the job.
But anyway, Jess, the thing is, it's hard. Sometimes I think it's our job to push our kids outside their comfort zone, because otherwise they'll become really rigid, and you'll get that kid that will only go to one restaurant and eat one food.
Yeah.
But
I only go to about 3 or 4 restaurants.
Yeah, but that's okay. That's okay. But I don't know. Sometimes it's okay to push your kids. Sometimes it's not, and I really have no clue when it's the right time and when it's not.
No parent is perfect. Our parents try as hard as they can, but like every person, no person is perfect. We all make our own mistakes. I've made a lot of mistakes that I regret, and I think another thing that's unfortunate about becoming someone that's known in the media and becoming famous is people will dig into your personal history and they will take that to the media and try and ruin you. And I think that's another thing you have to be really careful about.
Lisa has an interesting question. I like this. What was the best way that you can remember, discipline-wise, that helped you understand that what you were doing was wrong or not okay?
I think, like...
she adds on here. Hang on, sorry. For instance, some kids get things taken away or timeouts, but a child with ASD may not understand that in the same way. Any advice?
My parents or whoever was looking after me would look me in the eye and be like, what you're doing is not right, not okay. And then I'd sometimes be sent to my room or to the timeout corner. And it seemed to work for me, so. But every child on the autism spectrum is different.
I had a therapist tell me a really good story. She said, imagine you have 2 kids. Let's say you have 2 4-year-olds.
Yeah.
And they're playing with blocks. And you have one child, let's say my kid, Charlie, who has autism, who is autistic, and a neurotypical child. Now, the neurotypical child has built this castle. It's beautiful. It's got a moat. It's got a dragon, a damsel in distress. This thing is a thing of art, right? It's a real thing of beauty. And then Charlie, my son, check out the castle, and then whoosh, knock it over, right? And of course, the kid would be like, hey, you ruined my castle. I don't want to play with Charlie anymore. Teacher, hey, right? And
that's a really good impression.
Yeah, that's right. Right? So, and then Charlie gets in trouble by the teacher. Now, Charlie, you know, that was Jennifer's castle. You shouldn't touch other people, blah, 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 things. Now, it may have been that Charlie was interested in seeing what would happen if he hit the red block a certain way across the room and how it would fall.
Or maybe he was jealous. Like, I often remember getting jealous of kids being able to do stuff that I wasn't.
Being able to do it. But what this therapist had pointed out to me is that maybe Charlie did not attach the castle to a person. Right? So in other words, this thing was important to another person.
He didn't know that. He didn't
right?
That.
And so kids like Charlie can get in trouble all day long and chastised. But the problem is they didn't connect what they did as being attached to another person, thereby hurting another person's feelings or upsetting them or pushing them away.
Yeah.
You know? And so what can happen to a lot of children is when they go through a series of events like that and not understanding what is happening, then of course they're going to have a meltdown. Of course they're going to be upset because they're getting rejected and they don't understand why. Now, I'm not saying every kid with ASD is like this. But did you have situations like that?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the kids in my daycare would play Pokemon cards, Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and I would try and join in, and then I'd just get rejected, and I'd be all hurt. And then eventually it led to something that still affects me to this day is I don't have a lot of friends that are my age. I have maybe 3 friends who are my age.
Mm-hmm.
But then typically I get along with people who are older than me or younger than me. For instance, my best friend is like 3 years younger than me. One of my other best friends is like 7 or 8 years older than me.
Mm-hmm.
And I find it easier to be with people older than me or younger than me versus people my own age. Even though I have those 3 friends that are my own age, other people that are my own age, I just find it just weird and I just don't really want anything to do with them.
Is it a wavelength of some kind you feel that you don't click into?
Yeah.
Because I know, like for me, for example, I also have friends that are older and younger, but there's also something kind of nice. Like Laura and I are about the same age. I think she's older, but we're about the same age.
She's an old soul.
She's an old soul. But these things that happen, like the music that we listened to when we were young, or movies, and that we will have a similar wavelength that she and I would not necessarily have with somebody younger or older.
Exactly.
Is there a wavelength that you maybe think that you don't catch?
Yeah, definitely with people who are older than me, like I'm into the same music and movies that they're into. I grew up listening to the Beatles. The Beatles was the first music I was ever exposed to. My parents used to play it all the time in the car when we were on road trips. And people are like, how did you grow up listening to the Beatles? You're way below their era, like way younger.
Yeah.
And I explained that my parents were exposed me to that music right from the get-go, and that's the first music I ever heard.
Is it possible that you're open to a whole bunch of things, eras, time, that these things maybe don't matter as much? Like liking what everybody else likes, is that maybe not so important to you? Yeah,
it's not important. I like what I like, and they like what they like.
Yeah, because some people, it's really important to them to all like the same thing.
But whereas me, I like things that are older than me, and things that are younger. And like I said, the first music I was ever exposed to was the Beatles, and I often have conversations with my parents about the Beatles, and I said to them, say John Lennon had never been murdered. Could you not just replace George Harrison? I'm like, you can't replace George Harrison.
So you have these big debates.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, we have a question coming in from a kid with autism through his mom. So say hi, Lucas.
Hi, Lucas.
Hi, Lucas.
And he's worried about finding a good job while having autism.
It's definitely hard. I struggled for years and years to get a job that was accepting of me. I would often apply to places and they would reject me and be like, and say something that's against the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, saying we don't hire people with disabilities, which is illegal. But then I found the TTC. It wasn't directly the TTC. It was a company that they hired out, and they don't discriminate. We have people who are in wheelchairs. We have people who have many other medical conditions that they do not discriminate against. And I've had such lovely interactions with a lot of the TTC supervisors who work directly with the TTC. I met this one amazing supervisor. She has a son on the spectrum. And when she learned that I was on the spectrum, she was just so nice to me. And I'd say even nicer to me than she was to my coworkers, and more understanding, and was always asking if I needed help or if I was okay, and if she could get me anything, because she knows what it's like to have a child on the spectrum, and like just always checking in on me.
Have you've had a prospective employer look at you and say, we do not hire people with disabilities?
I just phone in and say, hey, like I'm looking for a job. Are you guys hiring? Then I drop off a resume and they phone me back and like, do you have any medical condition? I'm like, yes, I have autism. They're like, oh, sorry, we don't hire people with disabilities, and then hang up.
And you said that's illegal.
Yeah, it's illegal. It's against the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms.
Right, actually, it's the Ontario Human Rights Code, but it's a violation.
Did you follow up with that? Did you let it go?
Unfortunately, I'm one person, and I don't have access to lawyers and money like these big corporate companies, so I can't fight them. Unfortunately, it is what it is. I have to accept it. And I've been so thankful that the TTC doesn't discriminate, and that the other two industries that I'm getting into don't discriminate, and go to places that don't discriminate. Don't try and work with places that discriminate, because that's just teaching the wrong values.
Can you give us a ballpark number of how many times that may have happened to you? Dozens of times.
Dozens and dozens
where
and dozens of times.
You've been on the phone with a prospective employer.
Yep.
And you disclosed that you have autism.
And then they say we don't hire people with disabilities, and click,
click and hang up.
Guys, I'm worried that we're scaring Lucas here. And
okay, sorry, Lucas.
The truth is that does happen, but it's also true, Lucas, that there are increasingly employment agencies that specialize in helping people with autism and other disabilities to find jobs.
Yeah, and the group that I got hired by and the two other background acting, they have so many people with disabilities. And also people who sell food and snacks and beer in the stands for MLSE.
Maybe you can also tell, and I'm sorry, Lucas, I didn't mean to scare you.
I didn't mean to either.
He says he's not scared.
Okay, good.
Okay.
How many jobs have you had? Can you list the jobs that you've had and what you did in those jobs?
Mostly just in the service industry where
What was your first job?
My first job was working at the High Park Grenadier restaurant, and I
That's
played a number of roles.
Cool.
And
How I got the connection was my dad's friend owned it at the time.
Nice.
So I kind of I didn't even get an
how
intro. I
old-
hired him.
How old were you? When
I
you
was
were-
15.
And what did you do there?
Well, mostly busboy and dishwasher. But
Hard work.
when you work for someone who's a family friend or who's a family, you do jobs that you're not really legally supposed to do. Like I was a waiter for shifts.
Second job. What was your second job?
Again, dishwashing at Vesuvio's. My third job, dishwashing at Kelsey's on the Queensway. I really liked Kelsey's. I was there for about 6 months, and then at the end of my shift, I think 6 months through, people from corporate came and they said everyone at this location is getting laid off.
Okay.
Like they just cleaned house.
Yeah.
It wasn't just me. It was like everyone, all the chefs, all the managers, all the front house staff, all the back house were all just let go in one fell swoop.
Let me ask you, what's your dream job?
My dream job would be acting in Hollywood, and I don't feel that people with disabilities get to act in Hollywood enough and tell their stories through their eyes and not through someone else's.
So what
true.
kind of roles would you like to portray? Would you like to portray people with autism, or maybe
Something else.
something
Both,
else? Do you
with
have a
autism
dream
and with
role?
neurotypical.
Yeah.
And, I feel that's one of the changes that needs to be made in Hollywood. My dream would be to be a big-time actor in Hollywood, like Brad Pitt or Tom Cruise or Denzel Washington or Will Smith. That would be, like, the dream for me.
Hey, Lucas wants to do a YouTube channel with you.
Okay.
I'm, as much as I like YouTube, I was just with a company that had a channel. It didn't work out so well for me, so I'm not going to be a YouTuber myself, but thank you, Lucas. I do appreciate that. But if you want to become a vlogger, you're going to need a camera, a mic, and a tripod, and just build up by yourself. There's a lot of the YouTubers I follow who have some amazing stories where a lot of the YouTubers I follow don't go by society's norms. Like, a lot of the big-name YouTubers I follow are school dropouts. One of my favorite YouTubers dropped out in grade 6. And he's now 17 years old, sitting on $50 million. Damn. And he's 17 years old. He's got
good.
cars, mansions.
I'm in.
And he dropped out in grade 6 because I remember him telling a story, and it just shattered me, which is another case. Even though he's not on the autism spectrum, he was physically beaten by his principal at a school in the States. And it scarred him so much, he just dropped out of school in grade 6. And now he's 17 years old, sitting on millions and millions of dollars.
Wow. Hey, could you talk a little bit about the OAC's Youth Advisory Committee?
Oh, good idea.
Because I'm thinking maybe Lucas would like to join.
Yeah, I mean, they very graciously gave me a position, and Elsbeth, another amazing person on the autism spectrum. And
We're coming for you, Elsbeth.
yep, and my hope is eventually Laura's 2 kids and their girlfriends, Hannah and
That's it for the girlfriends now.
who's Iris's friend?
Oh, you mean Maddie?
Maddie.
My bonus daughter. Yes.
Maddie and Hannah and Cliff and Declan will eventually become members of the OAC. That's my dream.
Yeah.
But
I think we better get an event together soon for youth on the spectrum. And this maybe is the place for the shameless plug, once again, to get those of you that are Facebook members to go to the webpage, the OntarioAutismCoalition.com webpage, and sign up as members, because there's been some great chatter lately about people wanting to connect with other members of this group. But until you join the database, we can't see necessarily what city you're in. But there have even been people who have put up their hands and said, hey, I'd like to organize a play group in this area. And P.S.
and we've had so many amazing...
Hang on just a second. This is the queen of play groups. And if you want to talk about how to organize one, you want to contact Karen. But I think it's really important for our kids to get together. And for somebody like Lucas to meet someone like you, to be able to look up to somebody that's maybe 10 or 15 years older and go, hey, you have a life, you're successful, like, I'm going to be okay. I think that's so important.
But also, we've had so many amazing supporters from miles and miles away in Ontario, in Windsor. A great friend of Laura's, Mary Beth Rocheleau.
Yeah.
Check out her page.
Mm-hmm.
She's got an amazing page and shares so many great articles. And like I said, also, check out the work that Lisa Gretzky and Monique Taylor are doing. They're absolutely amazing women, and I'm so thankful to have met them and become friends with them.
Yeah,
I find friends in interesting places, don't you?
Do.
Oh yeah,
we really do, and I love the connections that people in the OAC Facebook group are making. Remember, there's nothing stopping you from organizing stuff on your own. But definitely getting the youth together is really important. So maybe we can look at organizing some kind of event. Sadly, it will probably be in the GTA, but I hope soon groups will start to form in
all over
other
Ontario,
parts of the province.
And also, another thing about Lisa Gretzky, what I found so cool is she's a cousin of Wayne Gretzky, the greatest hockey player ever.
Mm-hmm. And you're only a little bit excited about that, right?
No, I'm very excited. He was.
I was wondering if there was a
He's
connection.
like God to me. Like Wayne Gretzky is like God to me. If I met him, I'd be like, I met God.
Okay, guys, final call for questions.
Any questions? Final call, because we're gonna be ending the live stream soon. It's getting late. I gotta get home.
Yeah, it's bedtime for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so while we're waiting, we're talking about friendships. And Laura mentioned I started a play group with some friends 4 years ago in Scarborough, and we have 200 people in this play group now. It's going great. I noticed my child is 8, and even when he was very little, I felt that he was able to relate to other children with special needs in a unique way. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the reasons why I started the play group with my friends, because I wanted him to be in a play environment where he could just be
himself and not be scrutinized.
And not be scrutinized
also
and corrected.
Other special needs parents who understand that he has special needs.
Yeah, exactly.
And who are accepting and we're like, oh, he's just being himself.
I'm just wondering, do you think there's any validity to that feeling I have? Like, have you had that experience yourself? Yeah,
I mean, I would have greatly appreciated it, but I didn't start meeting other people on the autism spectrum until I started the group at Geneva Center till I was 10 years old.
And that's what I'm curious about. So when you were finally among a number of boys and girls who were also on the autism spectrum, did you feel more comfortable?
Yeah, I definitely felt more comfortable and like I could be myself. And I mean, for the folks in general, they don't see all the ins and outs of autism like I do every day. They only see some of the people who are high functioning. They don't see what parents have to go through who have kids who are low functioning.
We're not worried about the parents though. We're interested in you, and your perception.
And yeah, I definitely think, something like that when I was younger could have been helpful to me.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it was back in, almost 2 decades ago where it wasn't as open and accepting.
For sure.
And where a lot of kids were just thrown into a group home and forgotten about.
Yeah, I know. You're right about that. But I'm curious about the 10-year-old you. So when you met those other kids.
Yeah, I definitely felt like I got to be more comfortable and be myself and not worry about being judged.
But also, did you find that you were able to connect in a way that maybe those of us who are neurotypical didn't pick up on?
Yeah, I definitely think so, yeah. And, as great as the group leaders were, they were all neurotypical. They weren't.
Yeah.
The only autism specialists that were there were dealing with the parents and trying to educate the parents on how to help their kids.
Yeah.
But then all the neurotypical people were helping the kids who were not neurotypical, like myself.
Yeah. Do you think that a good therapist could be someone who is also on the spectrum?
Yeah, I think it would make the connection a little bit stronger and more understanding.
Here's a final question from Lucas. He wants to know, how did you deal with failing in academics?
It's hard. You feel like you let yourself down. You feel like you let your family down. I failed a number of subjects. Just keep trying, buddy. It is hard. I struggle still to this day with math and science. I also went through some very rough times. I dropped out of school a number of times, and I eventually went back and finished. Don't worry about finishing high school in the allotted time. It took me 8 years to graduate high school. So if it takes you 8 years or 10 years, so be it. Don't worry about finishing when everyone else finishes. Just finish at your own pace.
Do you have aspirations for college or university, or do you care about that stuff?
No, I don't care. Honestly, I'm going to sound completely bratty here, but education to me was something that was never important to me. I feel I would have learned even better by traveling. I've been traveling a lot lately, and when I travel to a new place and see new cultures, I learn better that way. I don't learn from sitting at a desk and staring at a teacher lecturing. And I sound like I'm completely ungrateful, even though I'm Canadian educated and Canada still has one of the best education systems. But to me, education was never important. I honestly, like I said, feel I would have learned better from traveling the world.
Travel is an excellent teacher.
You learn different cultures. You learn different languages. You learn so much more about different countries and different cultures and the history of those countries and the food and what thought is put into that food and what is put into that food when it's made before it comes to your plate and before it comes to your table.
Wow. You're absolutely right that school is not for everybody. And
like I said, a lot of YouTubers I follow dropped out and never finished, and now they're successful, and people said, oh, you're going to amount to nothing, and now there's, multi-millionaires at, 17 or 20 years old. Another one of my favorite YouTubers, he was in high school, he dropped out, and his teachers and people said, oh, you're not going to amount to anything. For his 20th birthday, he bought himself a $20 million mansion. Does that sound like nothing to you?
Wow.
No, school's not for everyone, and he made himself famous by hard work. If you put in hard work, you can achieve your dreams.
That's so true. School is absolutely the right thing for some people, and for other people it doesn't work. And sometimes you can have the same person respond to the education system differently at different points in their career. You're getting a nice comment back here from Marnie, agreeing with you about travel. She says her university degree took her 7 years, and she regrets not taking a break between high school and university. Travel first, wisdom is priceless.
And I have to agree with that. Traveling is no amount of, I guess, words can put into perspective what traveling has done for me. And I've got to just meet new people and hear different stories. And people are rushed into education. In high school, they're like, okay, you got to go straight to university or college, otherwise you're never going to go back. That's not true. I've had friends who took 10-year gaps and then went back.
When you travel, do you travel on your own or with escorts?
I travel on my own, but I have also traveled with my family before.
So when you're traveling by yourself, do you have challenges?
Yeah, I mean, definitely anxiety comes into play because I'm like, oh, am I going to miss my flight? Am I going to get to the wrong gate? Is something going to go wrong? But then once everything's said and done, you feel better and you feel like, wow, I've just accomplished something cool.
That's pretty neat. A comment from Lucas again through his mom. And by the way, Lucas, hug your mom because your mom's awesome, and so are you. But she's saying that you made him feel better, even though he's not good at certain subjects. And Nelson points out that for him, and it's interesting, we've been joined in this conversation by other people who are on the spectrum. He says, I love university and I wish I could go back and study to be a teacher, but I can't. Don't take education for granted, but it is all about you, not just about getting a degree. And I think that's where we all sort of come together.
Here's what I have to say. My high school diploma, my grade 8 diploma, or the diploma my brother's going to get at the end of university, it's just a piece of paper. It doesn't define you.
Right.
What you do in your life and the people you meet are what define you. A piece of paper is worthless, even if it has $80,000 attached to it for university. It's worthless. It's just a piece of paper. It can easily be replaced.
You're amazing. You just, I don't know. I think I can't think of a better place to end.
To wind up.
Yeah.
So thank you everyone for the lovely questions and comments. I will be reading them tomorrow when I wake up. If you have any more comments, just leave them in the comment section and I will answer them as best I can tomorrow.
Okay. Is it okay if some people who watch this reach out to you on Facebook? And
Yes, please reach out to me. I'm at the maximum amount of friends, but you can private message me.
I didn't know there was a maximum.
5,000.
You have 5,000 Facebook friends?
What? Well, yeah, a lot of celebrities have added me lately. Like some of the most famous people in South Africa who are family friends with me. Hockey legend Ken Dryden added me.
What?
So does that then you go to another status, right? We have to be your fans, not your friends.
Yeah, we're gonna have to
establish
a
Oh, you guys can be my friends
fan
and like please just reach out to me, private message me. Please don't hesitate. You can message me and I'll answer you as soon as I can. I do have a lot going on, but I will answer as soon as I can.
All right. Nelson says, thank you. I will always cherish your wisdom. Tara says good night. And
good night, everyone.
This is us saying good night. Thanks to Karen for hosting.
Thank you, Karen, for hosting. This was a lovely place, and we had a lovely dinner beforehand, so thank you.
My pleasure. I learned a lot. Yeah. Thank you, Miko.
I also learned a lot from you guys.
Okay. Good night.
Good night.